This is all achieved in a very readable style so that one imbibes all this information effortlessly, which is a gift indeed possessed by the author. The research is meticulous and always documented, and I have great pleasure and honour to now launch officially the third edition of Jacqueline Grant's Providence, The Life of John Grant, and look forward to edition number 4.
It wasn't until late last year that I finally got my hands on a copy of the book Providence, The Life and Times of John Grant, written by Jacqueline Grant. And it was a borrowed copy that came in from, and a very battered borrowed copy, I've got to say, that came in from Orange Library. So it had obviously been read by many before me. And I read it. I had to go into the library to read it because it was a borrowed copy, and so I read it in sort of half-hour bites each day over 5 days. And every night I found myself squirming in bed over this incredible story, this incredible bit of research that had been done. Quite an inspiring work, and I think Paul has put it beautifully in his description of the work. But we're now fortunate to have Jacqueline with us, and she's going to just reflect a little bit on what she's done and where she's been, and the third edition that we've now got. But when I told her on the telephone when we first made contact, I said, look, I've been squirming in bed each night. I wake up and have dreams about this guy, John Grant. And she, with a bit of a smile that I could hear on the other end of the phone, said, well, look, he was in my bed for 2 years. So without any further ado, Jacqueline, would you like to come up?
Thank you to all those previous speakers. What a great day for everyone gathered here today at Moyne Farm. For every one of us here today, because we have an interest in Australia's history. It may be as well that we wanted to get our feet wet to make sure it really can rain west of the mountains. For our many different reasons, we gather to celebrate the life of John Grant, and my own historical awareness is concentrated especially on the period of convictism in this great southern land of ours. John Grant was a convict, that is, he began his life here in 1811 as an 18-year-old prisoner of the British government, 18 years of age. In our Australia today, that's just finishing school. We honour the life led by this young man from that age on. Certainly, as Paul pointed out, the honour is not for his life in Ireland before this date, as all of you who know his story can testify, given that he was accused of attempted murder in his home county of Tipperary, that his sister was hanged for her part in that crime, and that his brother Jeremiah became a highwayman and was also hanged by the English authorities. Hardly a cause for honour. All of us, history buffs, lovers of history, can enjoy the celebrations of this day for the success that John Grant achieved after his life as a convict, through his own courage, astuteness and determination, as well as Paul has pointed out, the serendipity of the support he was given at that time in Australia's history. Firstly, because William Redfern was the man John Grant was assigned to on his arrival in the colony. And secondly, and equally significantly, that Lachlan Macquarie was the governor of the day, and he was a convinced and determined supporter of convicts. I do want to now give special recognition not only to all of us as historians in general, but most significantly here at Moyne Farm, to all of you here who are related to this man we honour today. John Grant left a remarkable historical inheritance for many reasons. In his earning of the accolade Father of Hartley, in his accumulation of enormous tracts of land, in his outfoxing many of the exclusives, in this lasting physical legacy of a home he built that we are visiting today. But also, most wonderfully, in 2019, the thousands of his descendant Australians that so many of you here today represent. The story I researched and wrote about John Grant 25 years ago began as a chronicle of one Irish convict, but developed into a history of early New South Wales. But with a difference. The powerful figures are in this history, but it is not their story. No surprises for any of us who pay attention to world matters today to learn that there was antagonism, and worse, between those with and those without the power in the early colony of New South Wales. Recent decades have concentrated on the suffering of the powerless Indigenous peoples of the time in Australia's history, and rightly so. But today, I wish to revisit briefly the position of powerlessness of the early convicts. In the first decades after the First Fleet arrived, both the army and the landed elite wanted to recreate in Australia the English system of class privileges. The early colonists would not tolerate any criticism of the convict system because it threatened their access to labour. And the development of the new colony depended on the hard work of its convicts. Any like Macquarie or Redfern who supported the rise of convicts were maligned or condemned. So to highlight the extraordinary success of this man from Moyne, who came as a convict from Ireland when he was hardly more than a boy, I remind myself and all of you that the majority of convicts sent to New South Wales failed. Virtually none succeeded to the degree that John Grant did. Many were lazy, unwilling to obey new masters, scared of further punishment, and they probably suffered mental illnesses that we recognise today but went undetected and untreated then. And why wouldn't they have suffered such? Why wouldn't they have arrived in New South Wales less than 100% balanced, content, or hopeful for their future, when they found themselves cast away from their homes and family at the other end of the earth, and after the horrendous experience of transportation? The conditions on board transport ships were dire, and that situation of lack of clean air, lack of nutritional food, lack of freedom and privacy lasted for 3 to 6 months on ships such as John Grant's Providence, or that of his first wife, Jane O'Brien's Archduke Charles. And that hellish voyage followed as often as not after months or years in prison in their homeland. Harsh treatment and punishment were designed to destroy the convict's will, not rehabilitate them. Once arrived, many men were put on chain gangs for road work or other hard labour, and women were put into factories or domestic situations which were often brutal and or personally offensive and degrading. And let's not forget that New South Wales was a prison. That between 1811 and 1830, over 50,000 convicts were transported to Australia from England and Ireland. In total, the number was 3 times that, over 165,000. Providence was the name of John Grant's convict transport ship, but it was Providence, in a wider sense, that resulted in this Tipperary lad being assigned to Dr. William Redfern at Campbelltown, and shortly after, that Jane O'Brien, whom we are giving special recognition to today, was assigned to Dr. Redfern's wife, Sarah. Working for Redfern gave Grant the experience and opportunities that allowed him to move into the future in this strange new country with the success that he enjoyed. He was treated with respect. He was encouraged to work extra hours to make some money for his future. And he was exposed to useful insights into the importance of land acquisition in this country and how to go about it. Chance, or a better word on this occasion, Providence, put in my possession, just a few weeks ago, a letter home to his family written by a convict in Sydney at the time that John Grant arrived. His name was Charles Whalen, and he was from England. John Grant could have penned such thoughts, and probably did, but unfortunately there is no record of his correspondence. This man, Whalen, wrote, "Times are hard and very harsh, and frequently they are cruel, and only the very strong can survive. But survive we will, and go on to build a great land and a great nation out of this untamed wilderness." And later, in this same letter, remember the gentle climate the English and Irish left behind, he writes, "The summer sun burns down with the fury of hell and turns our fair skin black from November to March and beyond. But at least in winter, there is no snow to chill our bones and kill our livestock." He was in Sydney, not Hartley, the Blue Mountains having not yet been crossed. He goes on, "There is flood and drought and fire, and sometimes the natives will attack. But for all its faults, it is a good land, and will give you back tenfold if you are prepared to work it. There is room to breathe the good, sweet air, and to move about. And there is room for all of England in the hills that I can see to the west from here, and which no man has yet crossed, and who may never do so. These hills and the harshness of our times are the challenge for me," he wrote, "and my children, and for all the children of the colony tomorrow." I'm indebted to another Charles for this historical gem of a letter. He is here with us today, but only by Providence again. He almost didn't have one of those elusive entry tickets to today's events. Thank you, Charles Rue, a descendant of Charles Whalen, whose words could easily have been written by John Grant himself. My thanks now to Paul Brunton for his agreeing to launch the 3rd edition of John Grant's story, Providence, and for all his insights into John Grant's Australia. Very much appreciated. I've been an admirer of Paul's for a long time. He may not know that, but I have. Ramsay and Susie Moody, Celia Ravisi, and the Lithgow National Trust members are deserving of enormous congratulations for all they have done in preparation for today, and are still doing here today. Thank you. Thanks also to Ramsay for alerting Peter and me about this occasion, in time for Peter to rally this wonderful Grant family representation, and in time for me to accept his gentle persuasion to prepare another edition of Providence and to have it ready for today. Nick DeFalco is the behind-the-scenes hero of this event, and I wish to sing his praises. Along with his mother, he is Moyne Farm's owner. This is his home and property, and Nick has graciously allowed untold intrusions into his domain while the cemetery work was taking place, while preparations for today were in hand, and in opening his home and his heart for this day. And just to make sure he remembers that I sang his praises, and to give you yet another reason to buy a copy of Providence, I make the claim that this present-day owner of Moyne Farm is by far and away a better-looking bloke than its first owner. Have a look at John Grant's face on the front cover, if you don't believe me.